Hi everyone, welcome back to my coaching channel. My name is Andrea and today we're going to talk about restorative and how this strength may show up in day-to-day life. Restorative is one of the themes in the executing domain. The executing domain is all about taking actions and getting things done. The executing themes will show up as purple in your strengths report, but today we're going to focus on restorative. Those who lead with restorative are excellent at solving problems. They're also able to seek out problems as well. Restorative has an intrinsic motivation to not just solve the problems, but also won't stop until the problem is resolved. They might even get a little bored if there's not enough problems to solve once in a while. But don't worry, those who lead with restorative are not about creating problems. They're the ones who are going to look out for any inconsistencies or any issues that might become a problem in the future. They'll dedicate all their time and energy to ensure the problem has been corrected. Those who lead with restorative love the feeling of the accomplishment that comes from fixing something that was once broken. They love breathing new life into something and making it be restored, hence the name restorative. They're very motivated on taking something that is broken or messed up or needs fixing and bringing it back to its proper order and place. In another sense, those who lead with restorative love being the hero. If there is stress or problems coming your way, they are so happy to help you solve that problem. You can definitely count on restorative to support you in whatever you are facing. Let's talk about how restorative might show up at work. Let's say there is a bug in code and you have to figure it out. You can count on restorative to not only just solve the problem, but they're going to relentlessly sift through all the code, all the different documents, files to ensure everything is up to par and fixed. Or maybe your team is going through a budget review. You can rely on restorative to examine the budget and even point out where are some funds being misused. And restorative will be able to figure out what's the best way to stretch that budget for the entire department for the rest of the year. However, there's something to keep in mind when it comes to using restorative at work. Because those who lead with restorative are very good at pointing out problems and issues, it's also important to over-communicate how you're going to solve them. Folks love working on teams with people who are motivated to not just seek out and figure out what the problems are, but those who are motivated towards the solution. So if you're in a one-on-one meeting with your manager, it's important to not just address the problem, but have a quick follow-up of saying, and here's what I'm already trying to do to solve it. Or just share, hey, here are my next steps to figure out what went wrong. That's going to already elevate yourself as a person on your team, but also elevate your restorative strength to be even stronger. Now, I want to talk about how restorative might show up on a personal level. Something to consider here is that because restorative is so focused on solving problems and pointing out issues, they might come off as someone who's negative or someone who brings down an environment because they're pointing out issues and problems. Imagine yourself on a dinner date with someone you care about. Unfortunately, let's say you get paired off with a lousy waiter who's late, unattentive, not bringing the items in on time. Someone with restorative might continuously complain about how bad the waiter is instead of focusing on what's most important, the person across the table from you. And so with restorative, it's important to keep in mind that yes, it's important to solve problems, figure out what's going on, and hopefully address the issue. But if you focus all your energy on always what's wrong, you're gonna miss the other beauties of life. Something else to keep in mind when it comes to restorative in the personal realm of life is that those who lead with restorative might jump too quickly to help other people solve their own problems. And there's a few things to keep in mind here. One, not everybody wants help. Someone who's sharing about a problem or a conflict honestly might just want to express themselves. They just want to let their emotions run free. And so that person who leads with restorative the best thing they can do in that moment is just listen to their friend or loved one. Point two, sometimes people just don't want help. Maybe they're just talking about a problem, but if you go in there and swiftly try to take over that problem to solve for it, that person might honestly just want to solve it on their own time, as their own individual self. They might not want community or support in that part of their problem. The third thing I want to point out is that if someone who leads with restorative is always out there solving other people's problems, guess what? That person will never grow. That person will never learn how to handle those problems in the future. So someone with restorative might inherently be robbing these life learning moments that should really belong to the person who's trying to overcome that struggle. Of course, restorative wants to help and solve the problems, but it's good to communicate with friends or loved ones to say, hey, do you want my support here, or do you want to try handling this on your own? One last thing I want to point out in regards to restorative in personal life settings is that those who lead with restorative might have a problem with literally letting go. And that's because they spend a lot of time and energy thinking about previous problems and were they solved correctly? Was that the right thing to do? But for folks who lead with restorative, that's so much time and energy you're putting into the past. And so sometimes holding on to something is actually hurting you more than what's really worth it in the end. So those who lead with restorative, it's important to honor and figure out, yes, we solved that problem. That's a decision we made. But take a moment to pause and reflect and say, yep, we made the best decision we could with the information we had. So let's move forward together. Practicing the art of letting go is really healthy, honestly, for anyone, but especially for those with restorative that might tend to hold on to problems a little longer than they should. Now, I want to make sure that restorative takes some time to look at themselves in the mirror. Restorative is, again, really motivated at figuring out what's the problem and what's the best way to solve it. But I want to give you all a chance to think about, what are your own problems and issues? Everyone has them, and restorative deserves to spend time with themselves to figure out, what are my priorities? What are my goals? What are things blocking my way? And making sure you're solving it for yourself. Make sure you're not ignoring yourself. It can be quite easy to, especially because for restorative, all they see in the external world is a lot of problems and things that need to be fixed. So taking the time to pause and reflect on yourself and thinking, what are my own problems? How can I heal? Or what's work I need to do? Can make sure that you have a better life for yourself and not to be as stressed or worried about others. I would love to hear from you all. Do you lead with restorative as one of your top 5 strengths? Or maybe some of the things I'm sharing reminds you of yourself. Tell me more in the comments below, and I'd love to learn from you all. If you are enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your support. So stay tuned for our next video about our next strength.